Hello and welcome to episode 227 of First Geek 411. This week we're chatting D&D, Hi-Fi Rush, and the shakeups to DC's movies and shows. My name is Cameron. I'll be your host, and with me, as always, from the Great White North, Shanine. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Snow's melting, so
The snow's melting here too.
nice.
I'm sure it is not remotely the same as what you had. And then with us from West Coast, Best Coast, Emma, how are you doing?
If there was snow here, it would mean the end of the world. So, there is no snow to melt in Los Angeles, California. But I'm glad it's melting for you guys.
Wasn't it the 2021 storm that was like the first time it snowed in Mexico in like 100 years or something like that? Or like in like Mexico City or something?
Probably.
Am I making that up? I feel like I remember seeing that.
I vaguely remember what you're talking about, so you're not going crazy.
I might be completely incorrect, but at least I'm not crazy. So we got that going for us.
Can confirm, not crazy.
Listeners, as always, you can find us on our social media as OneGeek411. You can join our Discord server. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. And then you can also watch live on Twitch, 6:45 Mountain Time every Monday night. Be part of the post-show chats and find the videos over on our YouTube, such as our Glass Onion spoiler cast. And then we also have like our end of year resolutions, things like that. Handful of other spoiler casts, gameplay things. Lots of fun stuff over there. So, and then you can also go check out our Redbubble store for some merch. Before we get into the news, let's catch up with what we have been up to. Emma, why don't you start us off?
What have I been up to? The biggest thing is I caught and have recovered from COVID. That was not fun. I still have a remaining cough. So that's been the big thing. It was not fun. Do not recommend it. In other parts, I shall touch on briefly. I've been watching Legend of Vox Machina and The Last of Us series on HBO. Both are fantastic so far, and I could not be happier with the way that things are going. And I also played and completed the Dead Space remake. It was my first time playing Dead Space at all, and I very much enjoyed it. I did not get spooked, probably because it's in one of the earlier space horror games that set up a lot of the space horror tropes, if you will. So I was kind of expecting a lot of the jump scares or whatever, but it was a lot of fun, and I would like to go back and play it again on a more difficult setting. So I'd highly recommend it to people who like space horror, unlike Cameron.
Yeah, I'll just say this very much illustrates our different view on spooks. I watched somebody stream it, and that was spooky enough for me.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm not about this. Like,
literally, I had several moments while playing it where I'd be walking down a hallway, stop, look at what was in front of me, and go, there's going to be a jump scare right there. And then I walk forward, and there's a jump scare right there, and it, like, happens, and I'm like, I knew it! But, like, I can totally get, like, it's not it for some people. So, I had a lot of fun, and would definitely recommend it to people who like that kind of stuff. Now, if only I could play Dead Space 2, which I cannot, because it is not backwards compatible, and it is PlayStation 3. So.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Yep. Classic PlayStation 3 games.
Yep. We love it. So I might just hunt down Dead Space 2 Let's Play on YouTube, because I'm really curious to see where it goes.
Nice.
So that's been the last couple of weeks for me.
Shanine, what have you been up to?
I don't know. the last couple of weeks have been a blur, and I feel like I have not been up to a lot. But I finished watching The Haunting of Bly Manor, and it was so good and had me all in my feels in the last episode, which was unexpected. It, oh, I just Mike Flanagan and the way he tells a story, it's so good. I love the kind of horror where it's like, yeah, this is horror. Oh, JK, this is actually a different kind of story. We're just using horror to tell it. And I'm like, okay, I wasn't prepared for this, but I love it. And yeah, then I was like, I finished it and I was like, well, now I've watched all the Mike Flanagan Netflix shows. What am I supposed to watch now?
What do you do with your life?
I found out he's coming out with a show based on Poe's works later this
Ooh.
year, which is super exciting.
What platform?
I think Netflix as well. Yeah, but obviously still have to wait for that. However, when I was looking for things to watch, I was recommended by the wonderful Mike Perna to watch Willow, the show, or if I had not seen the original movie. And I actually had not seen the original movie. It had been on my list to watch for like basically my whole life. And I finally watched it for the first time last night. And it is very heckin' 80s. But
This has been popping up and stuff for me recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the show that came out, there's a lot of like people returning to it. Similar to you, Shanine, I had not seen the movie when back in the day when we were doing the must-see movie of the week. Deanna brought Willow as her recommendation, and so that was the first time that I had seen it.
I feel like I saw this movie once when I was really little, or like young enough that I'm pretty sure I saw it, but I don't remember a lot of it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because I remember the baby having the tattoo, or the mark on the arm.
yeah, it's definitely one of those movies where like the people who grew up with it just like absolutely love it. If you didn't grow up with it, it is quite campy, but I guess charming. In
I
its own
guess.
way.
If you say so, Shanine.
It was fun. Just don't expect like super deep character development or anything. The characters, they do things for the plot.
I believe it.
They do things for the plot. Yeah. Why does this happen? For the plot.
The only reason it happens.
I'm trying to find the episode where we talked about Willow, and my phone is not like cooperating as I quickly do a search, so it's there
Rude.
somewhere. For me, oh, okay, no, I did find it. Okay, so it was episode 28. It looks like is when we watched and talked about Willow. Yeah, so that was like 200 episodes ago. That it was back when I was doing like very like detailed like by the minute show notes, and so I was like having to scroll through and try to find it, and so yeah, so that's out there on podcasting platforms. So for me, as you can see on stream by putting Joel and Ellie on here, I have also been watching The Last of Us on HBO. Deanna and I have really been enjoying that. We've had some great conversations over in the Discord as well, kind of chatting about the episodes, and so that has also been a lot of fun. It's kind of the first time we've had a decent like contingency that have all been watching the show like the night that it comes out. And so it's been really fun, like diving into that and chatting with people.
About the cameos.
All the cameos. And
All
so
the cameos.
they've been doing a great job bringing in like people that were in the game into like different roles in the show. So that's been very cool. Very excited for it. I assume that we'll do a spoiler cast for this after all the episodes are out. So
Do we know how many episodes? I feel like I've seen 10.
I've heard 9, and so
9 or
we're
10.
just shy of halfway.
Yeah.
So, and so yeah, that's been fantastic. Can't wait. Love talking about it. I'm so happy that more people are seeing The Last of Us.
Yes.
Shaneen, to what you were saying about The Haunting of Bly Manor, I feel like that summarizes how I feel about The Last of Us. Of it's like, are there spooks in Last of Us? Yes. But it's also not remotely horror. It's like the type of thing that uses the setting to tell different stories.
It's like action drama with a touch of horror.
Exactly. Of like, I've seen so many like complaints about like, there weren't even zombies in this episode. It's like, how can you call yourself a zombie show? And it's like, it's not a zombie show, everyone.
They're not calling themselves a zombie show.
It's like, you have
the
indeed missed the point. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's been a great adaptation so far. They've definitely changed some things, but so far every change that they made has IMO been for the better, or at least not been for the worse. There's some stuff that's
100%.
like tangential, but there's nothing that has like, I feel like really detracted from the game or hasn't made sense. And I do feel like they've actually fixed some of the things in the story from the game.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely some stuff we've talked about over in the spoiler part of the Discord that I feel like did not make sense in the game and that they fixed in the show. So then there's also shots that are like shot for shot like straight from the game, and that's been
And
fantastic.
or line
also,
for line.
yeah, like shot for shot, line for line. It's been fantastic, and so
The first scene of this episode 4,
Mm-hmm.
is literally the scene from the truck in the game.
mm-hmm. It's so
Which
good.
is fabulous. So
I haven't seen it yet, but I did watch a video that had a bunch of short clips of all of the locations in the episodes so far
Mm-hmm.
of Alberta. And it's fun being like, oh, I know that place. I literally stood right there.
been there, done that.
At some point, when we come to Canada, you'll need to give us the Last of Us tour
Yes.
so we can walk around and see all the things.
Yeah, it looks very different. I will tell you that right now.
That's good. I appreciate that.
Naturally.
Like,
Much less apocalyptic.
Movie magic, people.
yes, exactly. When we were in New York, Deanna and I were talking about how like there's got to be some company that does like the movie tour, especially in a city like New York that's in so many movies. Like there's got to be something where it's like, give me a list of movies, let me pick the ones and like take me to the ones that have those locations. Like that's got to be a thing somewhere.
I mean, LA has the studio tours,
Yeah.
so I don't see why New York couldn't have something like that.
It feels like it's got to exist somewhere.
100%.
And then, as Emma also mentioned, I've been watching Legend of Vox Machina, enjoying that as well. I like their
I watch very
format.
similar things.
Yes, it turns out like, and so I really have liked their format of like releasing 3 episodes a week. I think that's been a very fun way to do it, where it's like they're not even like necessarily mini arcs, but you kind of just have multiple episodes to watch at a time. I like that a lot. It's kind of a good mix between like the binging versus like 1 episode a week.
Yeah.
So
It's a good compromise of the two.
yeah. I say this every time. I said this in pre-show. I'm saying it now. Shout out to them, like living their best life.
Yeah.
Like they're over here, like starting their publishing house, getting shows on emphasis
You know,
on plural,
some-
on
7
Amazon
years
Prime. Like,
years ago, they were just
yeah,
playing this game in their house, in someone's house.
yeah. Shout out to them. And then the other thing that I have been up to is over on Cameron plus Deanna, I have been streaming Fire Emblem Engage, which is the latest Fire Emblem game. Came out end of January, and so I think I'm somewhere around halfway through. And so I've really been enjoying it. It feels a lot harder than the other Fire Emblem games. I don't know if it's like I just cranked up the difficulty on this one and I didn't on the other ones, but like I played the first like couple missions on normal and just like breezed my way through it. And I'm like, oh, I'll bump up the difficulty, and I'm on the struggle bus now. But it's been a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it. It feels, like I said, it feels more difficult than previous games. And I like that. Because I am a crazy person that plays on the difficulty where if a character dies in combat, they die. Like you don't get them back, and so that means that I have to like rewind every time someone dies to try to keep them alive, and like plan my move differently. And there are times where like when I was streaming yesterday on Sunday, I like breezed through 2 missions with no one dying, and then just like hit a wall on this one mission, and it took me like 5 or 6 attempts to get through the last portion of it. I was like, well, here we are. Like, we'll get through it eventually. But it's been a lot of fun. So
I actually just did a presentation in class last week on choice-driven games.
oh, nice.
It was a group project, but it was very interesting. That's about as much as I can give you, since I was recovering from COVID. I did my presentation via Zoom, to be fair,
yeah.
but you know.
Well, with that, we're gonna jump into some news. Like I said at the top, we haven't really done a news show since like early December, and so with that, we each kind of brought a piece of news for us to talk about. Obviously, a lot has happened since then, and so. But yeah, we're going to start with Emma. What do you have for us?
First things first, it was touched on a little bit earlier, but it was announced recently that the Mighty Nein officially has an animated series following the success of Legend of Vox Machina, a deal made with Amazon, which also means there is a film deal as well, most likely. So what that means is we will potentially also be getting a Critical Role movie. What that looks like, what group it will follow, we don't know yet. But the exciting thing is we now also have a multi-year Mighty Nein series that's going to happen. So the first 2 campaigns get TV shows, animated TV shows, which is great, and fabulous, and very fun and exciting for anyone who's a fan of Critical Role.
On that, I haven't finished series 2. What time period does that one take place in relative to Vox Machina?
It is a chunk of time after Vox Machina, but within a regular human lifespan.
Okay. Because I know
I
that
remember recently, and it was like 40 years or something like that.
Yeah. So, because there is also a one-shot that's Vox Machina versus Mighty Nein that they did.
Okay.
So it's 60 or 70 years after Vox Machina or something. Like, it's all 3 campaigns are happening within the same 150 years, I say, to give enough buffer room for error.
Also, sorry, Emma / listeners. I hit the wrong mute in the middle of coughing, and I accidentally muted Emma for a second, and then y'all heard me coughing. So here we are.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, sorry about that. It was only like 2 seconds or 3 seconds that you were muted, and so they got most of it.
3 campaigns happened within the time frame of like 150 years. For summary. So like, give or take.
So I
which is
knew,
kind of cool.
yeah, I knew that they had done the Mighty Nein versus Vox Machina one shot, but I wasn't sure if that was like timey-wimey shenanigans, like what was going on.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Because I know that they've done the like when they do the like free-for-alls and stuff like that. That's like not within the normal canon.
Well, okay. Campaign 3, they technically met members of Vox Machina, including but not limited to Percy, who is a human, which means it's within 80 years of Campaign 1. Which means I know Bell's Hells happens after Mighty Nein, so they're all within 80, 60. I'd say 60 years of each other, give or take.
So we very easily then could see, if they wanted to, see them do some sort of crossover movie as like a way of promoting. If they wanted to get like way out of the canon or something like that.
And spoiler free, we already see a little bit of that in Legend of Vox Machina. I am not saying much more than that for the sake of people who haven't watched Vox Machina yet in terms of the animated show. So
I
yeah.
looked up the timeline.
Okay. What have you discovered?
Vox Machina is in 810 to 812. Mighty Nein is 835 to 836. And Bell's Hells begins in 843. So they're actually very close.
Yeah, like 20
to 30.
30 year
30
span.
years between campaign 1 and 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crossover movie. I'm calling it.
Yeah. I mean, that would be pretty fun.
Although, when you said there was a potential movie deal as well, my brain was immediately like, what if they did EXU Calamity as a movie?
Yeah.
And then I almost started to cry.
I had
immediately.
A friend of mine who's also a Critical Role fan, and I were talking about it and how, like, she had the same thought of what if the movie deal was EXU Calamity, and that just makes a lot of sense as a whole. Like, in terms of, really it could go either way, doing Calamity or crossover, but they might, if they want, since it seems like they're kind of building out a universe, they most likely will probably do the Calamity rather than a crossover, just because they want to get more of that lore out to people who are not going to sit down and watch 800 hours of D&D content. Like me, who is has been insane for the past year and watched nothing but D&D content. You know, so I think EXU Calamity would be fantastic, honestly. So yeah, the other thing that I had on here is just to touch on, speaking of Dungeons and Dragons, is all of the Wizards of the Coast drama, and essentially what that boils down to is a company trying to even more so monetize their product in a way that did not need to happen because it was already bringing them a lot of money. Basically, yeah, Wizards of the Coast trying to take people's contact is a thing that happened for most of January, and courtesy of some document leaks, we, the general public, learned about it and protested and threw fits, and Wizards of the Coast is no longer doing that thing. That was a poor decision because we protested and took our money back. And it just got me thinking about companies monetizing hobbies and what you all had thoughts in regards to that, and if you guys had any opinions on how hobbies should be handled by the companies that own specific parts of them, but not all of them.
Sheen, you want to go first?
All right. I don't know. I don't usually follow drama like this on the internet because I'm usually not like affected or involved. I was very involved in this one, keeping up with everything going on with the open gaming license. I think Hasbro was probably more at fault than Wizards of the Coast necessarily. Not that Wizards of the Coast is, innocent, but Hasbro has more of those evil corporation vibes. And yeah, I don't know. The first day that we all heard of the leak and all of the Wizards of the Coast trying to like steal creators' content maybe and like just sell it as their own and making people pay royalties and all that stuff is like, yes, the way to encourage creativity is definitely putting price tags and more restrictions on it. And it was, I don't know, I'm not even that long of a D&D fan compared to like some other people who have been fans from the beginning. And it felt so incredibly insulting for us to have spent decades building a community of creatives and sharing content for them to just like take it all back and change the rules and make it more about the company than about the hobby. And it was so disappointing, and I was definitely questioning my support of Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards of the Coast for a while. There's a lot of other tabletop RPGs out there. Like, I can go elsewhere. But it was also exciting then to see how the community all came together, and there's a lot of backtracking all of a sudden, and yeah.
For me, I really liked what you said there, Shanine, about changing the rules. I feel like this is the type of thing that if this had been the policy, it would have been what it was. Like, obviously, I don't think D&D would have necessarily gotten here if that had been the policy from the start, but it's kind of interesting to think about. Like, if you take the specifics out of the hobby, like, and just kind of treat it as like an IP, everything that happened makes a ton of sense. It's a company's job to protect their license and their IP. It's a company's responsibility to their shareholders to then make money off of that, to make money for their shareholders. But like, from my perspective, where D&D gets into this weird ground is like, so much of D&D is that communal side of it. I play Magic, which is also Wizard of the Coast. And one of the sayings is always, it's not always about magic. It can be about the gathering. And like, that obviously is a little different when it's like cards that you can build your deck with. Of course, some people proxy and things like that, but like, that's one thing versus like it's like that it's like that line between where does inspiration become a wholly new product. So kind of like the idea of like we on our stream could watch a trailer and react to it or watch something and react to it, but we could not just play a movie. Like there's kind of that idea of like transformative work. And I think
Where
that
does copyright become fair use?
exactly. And
Where
it's
does
like,
fair use become privately owned?
right. And so it's kind of that idea of like, again, we're going to pick on Critical Role because they're easy to pick on here. But it's like, sure, like a lot of what they do as kind of, we'll say like the elite version, it's in the D&D rule set. They definitely take pieces of the D&D IP as well, such as the monsters that they created, the world, the class, or not the world, but the classes, those types of things. But like the actual IP of Critical Role is not D&D.
The world
Yeah.
that was created and that all the events happen in and the storyline.
Yeah.
Like all of that was Critical Role made.
Right. And like that's kind of that challenge then of like you get into that transformative, like what is that transformative work? And yeah, it just gets kind of crazy there, right? Like, and also as someone who's been on the other side of WotC decisions through Magic, it's like, wait, y'all got your way? It was like that meme about people talking about getting paid. And it was like, wait, like y'all made a fuss.
You guys are getting paid?
Yeah, it's like y'all made a fuss about this and it changed? What? Like, I feel like there's been so many like Magic decisions lately that have been like people have like made a big stink, talked a lot about. Like, nope, product still came out, still probably sold pretty well. Here we are. Like, there's been a whole lot of that type of stuff, and like, yeah, I don't like it's so interesting. Another thing that it reminded me of was there was a thing a couple years ago. I say that, please don't be 10 years ago. That would make me sad. Where Nintendo was trying to crack down on people streaming their games.
Oh, no, this was pretty recently.
Yeah, and like it kind of has that same vibe, right? Of like what is that line between a transformative work versus just like, here, I'm going to watch somebody play this because I'm not going to buy it, or then I won't buy it. Like, it's so like, what is that like, again, what is that line? And then what is the company's responsibility to their shareholders and their IP versus what is the company's like responsibility to their community? And like, especially for something like D&D, that would by no means be where it is without that community. Like, this isn't like Star Wars or something like that, where like Star Wars has like extended universe. It has all of these books that are not part of like the main canon. And like, of course, Star Wars has a ton of fans, but at the same time, like, it's the movies that like is what that was about. It's not like
the format of it does not lend itself
exactly
to the audience being required to create their own content in order to interact with it.
Exactly. And like, even as somebody who's like DMing through the Strixhaven campaign right now, there's a lot of stuff that's happening, and we're in like the first half of the first year still. Like, a lot of stuff has happened that's not in the book. And then, so even there, when we're following a campaign, what is that line between like following the campaign being like the license versus the transformative work that is our characters, my take on the NPCs, like the like what is that difference? And it gets so weird.
A whole session being off the books.
Exactly.
In some sense, like an entire session can be like an entire campaign can be pre-written material by Wizards of the Coast, but a certain session can be something that was entirely not prepared for in the book.
I just feel like, it's so crazy.
Yeah, I think it's wild. I had a bit of panic in the midst of it all happening because, in case I haven't mentioned it on proper podcast, last semester slash coming into this semester, I'm trying to work on and improve a pitch to make a documentary, a short form documentary about the impacts of D&D on its players and the positiveness of it, essentially, like how it impacts mental health and friendships and relationships and even some of the downsides. And then all this started happening, and I was like, if this goes through, like that's gonna screw up all of my legal plans or all of my plans in general because of legalities, and being able to actually use some of the material as transformative is going to be more difficult. So I was freaking out a little bit because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this documentary that I want to make or not. But then it all went through. I especially, like, as a creator slash artist slash someone who's decided to go into the career slash industry of creating content for other people, like watching something that I love so much be torn down by the companies that own slash make it. It was just like I was just standing there rubbing my face going, you guys, what are you doing? Like, you of all people should know that this is a terrible move to make. But it all turned out for the best, thankfully, because people got together and rallied against the choice. I think where D&D benefits from that Magic sort of falls through is with D&D there are alternative options, whereas with Magic there's no off-brand, to say the least, at least in terms of my knowledge. This is kind of what you were going back to earlier, Cameron.
Yeah, like there are definitely alternative TCGs, but like there's nothing like the difference between like Pathfinder and D&D versus like Magic and Flesh and Blood. Like the difference between Magic and the other TCGs is a lot bigger in that sense, where obviously all the systems are very intricate, but like in general, if you can comprehend one tabletop RPG,
You're
like you have a good like dipping your toe in the water. For the other ones, again, you're not swimming, but like you can dip your toe in. But versus like a trading card game of like I could having as someone who has played Magic for years, I've played Pokemon, I've played Yu-Gi-Oh, but if you handed me a Yu-Gi-Oh deck, I could not tell you anything that it would do just based on how like radically different. Whereas like I feel like you could give me a character sheet for Pathfinder 2e and I could like navigate my way around it okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a lot of questions, but like I could navigate my way around
easily in the TTRPG world.
Yeah.
Than with, the alternative, which I think kind of benefited the audience or the consumers in this route, because I know they've been doing similar things with Magic in the past years and have been able to sort of go through with it, which has been a struggle, and it sucks, honestly. Like, I don't play Magic, but it sucks that they've been able to go through with that kind of thing. But I mean, in the big grand scheme of things, it really does show the power of a community and what the power of refusing to let something happen does and has. So yeah, that has been D&D news with me.
Okay. Let's jump to our next topic with Shanine for something completely different.
All right. Whoever thought Shanine would be bringing up video game
I'm
news?
So hyped that I saw you put this in here.
Hi-Fi Rush. This game is heckin' blowing up right now, and it's wild. I I have my husband to thank for telling me about this. Basically, Xbox and Bethesda had a developer direct, and the creators of the game were like, hey, we made this game. It is available right now, which is wild, having a fully completed game that no one knew anything about, and it's just out and excellent.
Yeah, that's the
Like,
thing that's crazy is like, it's not even that it's good, it's that it is excellent. Like,
I think it's just, that's the way to do it, really, is just like be making your games. You don't have to have big like release dates and things that you then have to push back 5 times and then still release a glitchy, mediocre game. Just work on your game till it's done and release it. And it's, I think it's the smart way to do it. But anyways, yeah, Tango Gameworks released this rhythm action video game, and it is an Xbox exclusive,
And PC.
also on PC, because Microsoft. But yeah, it is adorable and fun. Also, another fun thing is that it has its soundtrack that has apparently a bunch of wildly awesome music, but also has a streamer version with non-licensed music.
Yep.
So,
which apparently is still good too.
it is.
Like,
yeah,
that's what.
It's been fun.
Yeah, like Guardians of the Galaxy did that as well, where there was a non-licensed part for like a streamer mode, and I gotta say, I feel like I missed things doing that. But like everything that I've heard about Hi-Fi Rush's soundtrack has been either way is like both fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
This is
yeah,
one of those games where I've seen like 2 or 3 clips and instantly wanted to play it, but can't because I don't have the proper console / computer to play it on. So I'm just like, I want to play this, but I can't, and it makes me sad. So
we have been watching the Maximilian playthrough of it, and it's been fun, even just getting to watch it. I don't know, the animation is like so vibrant and fun and loud, and just the whole I lost the word, environment moves to the beat. Yeah, it's so fun. And the robot kitty is adorable. And
Let's see if I can get Robot Kitty in more of the. Yeah, there we go.
yeah, love it.
Robo Kitty.
This is honestly something I hope that we see other developers kind of take note of like, based on like the stuff that I've heard, this is just like a passion project by some of the members at Tango Gameworks.
They're great.
It's just like, we just thought it would be fun to do this. Like, they almost exclusively do survival horror, and this part of the team was like, hey, can we make this fun rhythm action game? And like, I just really hope we get to see other studios like try stuff like that, where it's like, hey, we can give you X amount of time, X number of people, and you kind of get almost like an indie game vibe from like these bigger studios. Like, I think that it would be so cool if we can see more of that. There are some other studios that have done similar things before, but like, I don't know. I just like really would love to see like almost like that. It gets really weird, but like a big budget indie game. Like when you like if you have a company like Naughty Dog that has all of these amazing like writers and developers, and like give them a team and have them make just like a quirky game. It's just like, what could this be? Like, I don't know. Oh, it'd be so cool. Shout out to them.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of that also kind of lends into not that pre-existing IPs are bad, but companies and studios being more willing to try out new IPs and take bigger bets on newer things that haven't been created already. Because something like this, I don't think a lot of companies would have taken the bet on if it had been pitched as anything other than a passion project, if you will. And it's great that this happened because it just looks awesome.
Okay. So then from there, let's get to our final topic. And that is going to be James Gunn. As we're going to be talking about the new DC Universe Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. Not to be confused with Justice League Gods and Monsters, which is an animated movie that they released. So here we are, messing up the SEO. But as I Googled Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters, and I got the Justice League movie as I was trying to find a picture for the stream. So this came up a couple days ago as of recording, where James Gunn, kind of as the face of it, unveiled their plan, or his and Peter's plan for the new DC universe, both in terms of the current projects that do exist, as well as some of the future ones. And so we found out that Flash, Shazam 2, and Blue Beetle are all still happening. They are apparently going to be using the Flash to reboot some portion of the universe.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, which I believe that was the theory everyone has is happening. And so,
have I seen most of DC movies? No. Am I surprised by this news? No.
And then through that, we also got the announcement of basically they're calling it, I think it's DC Elseworld. And so these are the ideas. So that's going to be like the branding for DC properties that don't exist within the DC universe. So the example that they used was Matt Reeves' Batverse with the Batman and the Batman 2, as well as the Joker movie, that these are just like separate stories. They're not going to be connected. They're going to stay their own thing. And those directors are going to kind of have their ability to do whatever it is that they want to do for their vision, but within this separate branding. Which I think is a good thing, right? That kind of lets them, in a sense, have their cake and eat it too. Of like, you can like, one of the biggest challenges IMO for the DCEU is that it both rushed and was way too slow at building a connected universe. Like, there are some places where it was like, oh, we're having a Justice League movie crazy early on. Then there's other parts that are like the people in Aquaman can't talk underwater. They have to create an air pocket. Oh, just kidding. Now that we're doing the Aquaman movie, we're going to just have them talk underwater. Like, there's stuff like that. And so I like that they kind of have their full, or their ability to have separate things. And so, and then, I thought I had a list of all the things that were announced, and now it's just kind of scrolling through. So the biggest thing in terms of release date, and the only Gods and Monsters thing that that was announced that has a date, is a new Superman property called Superman Legacy, being written by James Gunn. And it is set to release July 11th, 2025. And so it says, this is from IGN, it says, the movie will show Clark Kent balancing his Kryptonian heritage with the human upbringing, showcasing Superman as a good hero in a morally complex world. And apparently James Gunn has not decided yet if he is directing it. So that's something. What do y'all think of a new Superman?
Poor Henry Cavill, man. He deserves better. But I have never really had much of an opinion on DC stuff because I'm not the biggest fan, but it doesn't make sense franchise-wise to go through so many actors for one character if there's no story reason for it. Like with Marvel, when you have different characters taking up the mantle of one hero, so like the different Iron Mans or Ironheart or Captain Americas, like there's some kind of story reason for it where Tony Stark dies and someone else takes up the role in his place, or Steve Rogers dies of old age and his friend takes up the mantle in his place. But here it doesn't sound like there's any in-universe thing for that. Granted, films have never been DC's strong suit, as we've seen over the past 20 years. In terms of like live action, animated stuff, they're fantastic. But in terms of live action, their strengths are in the TV shows. So I just think it doesn't make sense from a franchise logistical point. But that's about all I have to say on that.
Yep.
I don't know. I also like DC just always be disappointing me. So I'm sad but not surprised that they seem to have gotten rid of like their best actor. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I know, and I don't know what's true. Like we're at that point where there are definitely a lot of rumors and all of that kind of stuff flying around. But one of the things that I have heard is that it is not that Henry Cavill is out as Superman. It's just that he has not been offered a role, which I think James Gunn posted that. And it's a very interesting.
He wasn't hired.
Yeah, it's a very interesting clarification that it's not that we could never see him as Superman again. It's just that he will not be this main Superman. So it was just like, it's one of those that I'm very curious if that is like in 10 years, we'll find out that James Gunn had a plan that either didn't come to fruition or we'll see Henry Cavill as Superman again. Or if this is the type of, cause like, again, it just seems like one of those things that he wouldn't have to clarify. But like the fact that he like specifically wanted to say that in response to some questions, like, again, I don't know what's true or what's just him trying to do whatever he can to get this new thing off the ground. But it was a very interesting clarification.
It's an odd way of phrasing it, for sure.
I do also feel like, in general, DC is trying to follow in Marvel's footsteps a little too late in the game. Because Marvel has very well established themselves in this world of interconnected movies that are also standalone movies. That's one bigger story but can be taken by themselves as well. And DC has just tried to do standalone, and now they're trying to follow in Marvel's footsteps in some ways, seeing how successful it has been for the past 18 years, 15 years, 15 years, roughly. I'm not good at math for reasons. And I think this is one of those decisions that if they wanted to really do that structure is going to hinder them from the get-go. Because if they wanted to try and pull everything together to sort of match and or like play out in their favor, given they have pre-established movies, it would logistically make more sense to have Henry Cavill be Superman from the get-go, to like then maybe in one movie hand it off to another actor, kind of like how I was mentioning earlier. But we'll see how it happens. But again, there is the whole timeline of the Flash rebooting the system that's happening for the millionth time. So I guess we'll just see how it goes and how successful it is.
Yep. I will say on my end, and we're gonna run through the announcements. I did find the list of the full thing as a list versus having to scroll through an article. I will say that on my end, this list makes me very excited because there's a whole lot of stuff on here I have no clue what it is. So that means I don't have like there's not going to be any of like the preconceived notions. Because like let's not forget there were people that had very big complaints about Henry Cavill's Superman. Like we've kind of gotten into like the revisionist history of it at this point, but like there were major complaints about Man of Steel and how that represented Clark. And so I'm very interested to see if like the kind of this intention. Then at the same time, we are hitting some high notes with characters that we have not seen on the screen in a long time. And so here are the announced projects or announced new projects as part of the DC universe, with only Superman Legacy having an actual release date. So there's Creature Commandos, which is what we're showing a picture of behind James Gunn on screen. They look really weird. It's going to be something animated. And with this, they did say that their intention as part of these crossovers is that when a person plays a character in live action, they will play them animated as well. And so we'll actually see those crossovers. We saw that a little bit with What If on the Marvel end, where we had some of the actors reprise their roles as the animated version. And then we have Waller, which is going to be based on the character from the Suicide Squad. Superman Legacy, Lanterns, which is getting like a space noir, I think is how they described it. Like space cop noir. We're getting The Authority. We're getting Paradise Lost, which was described as Wonder Woman like meets Game of Thrones. So it's going to be like political intrigue and stuff like that, but in the Wonder Woman part of the world. The Brave and the Bold, which is Batman and Damian Wayne, who is one of the Robins. And so, and I think they confirmed that we're going to be seeing more of the Bat family there too. It's not going to just be this. Like we're going to be picking up with an established set of characters.
Batgirl and Batwoman and etc.
Yeah, Nightwing, I think. Someone said Nightwing again. I don't know what's confirmed versus what I just saw as a post, but someone said like that specifically Nightwing. So like that's cool.
Nightwing, Robin reskinned.
He was Robin previously, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then kind of went off to do his own thing, and so we're gonna get Booster Gold. Then we're gonna get Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and then Swamp Thing. And so, Shanine, do you have thoughts?
I just Booster Gold as its own thing. All right.
What do you know about Booster Gold? I say as someone who doesn't know anything about Booster Gold.
Please tell us.
I like not a lot, but like is it Smallville that I'm picturing him from? Or he was just like a very brief side character for like an episode or two in something. And it was like
So
he's just cheesy. I don't know.
in chat, Travis says he's a guy from the future with nothing special going on. And then I did pull up the Wikipedia. It says he is intentionally depicted as a glory-seeking showboat from the future, staging high publicity heroics through his knowledge of historic events and futuristic technology.
I mean, the only thing going for him is that he's from the future. That's it.
I'm in. Like, again, like this is the thing for me. Like, now granted, part of that is because we're finally getting Green Lanterns back. Like, we went the whole DCEU without a Green Lantern. Like, one of the, like, founding and, like, one of the extremely important characters from the Justice League. Like, so...
That's because Ryan Reynolds was gypped.
Yeah.
And he ditched DC to make Deadpool.
Yeah. But yeah, like that just like that blows my mind that we never saw Green Lanterns in any capacity. Like we got like a reference to one at the beginning of the Snyder Cut, and that's like basically all that we had from Green Lanterns. And so I'm super excited for that. But like on my end, like again, I love that I don't really know what any of these are. Like no clue what Creature Commandos are. Don't know anything about Authority. Don't know anything about Damian Wayne. Don't know anything about Booster Gold. Don't know anything about Swamp Thing. Like, I just have passing knowledge of Supergirl. Like, I'm so excited to not really know any of this. And now I'm also just over here crossing my fingers and like, please be good. Like, especially for Creature Commandos coming out as like an animated feature. That's the first thing to come out from this like new announcement. Like that needs to hit, like, cause that kind of sets the tone for like, how are we going to view the rest of these things? But
I just want to say, I find it hilarious and that it says a lot about our group that we don't know anything about DC, but we also have a Marvel tier list of the MCU movies.
Yeah.
So it's like it's very clear which one we tend to favor as a group. And that's just hilarious.
Yeah.
We're very much a Marvel group.
And I feel like Travis says Creature Commandos is discount Howling Commandos. And I feel like that's kind of the challenge of like one of the places that DC films have always succeeded was their individual stories. Whereas we saw the opposite of that with Marvel. Like the Christopher Nolan Batman, like, I mean, on top of the majority of the Batman films as a whole have been extremely successful. But then you look at stuff on the Marvel end of like Daredevil, Elektra, like most of the Fantastic Fours, like the later half of the middle portion of the X-Men movies. And like, you kind of have these things. And then, on the DC end, Travis in chat says Joker was great. I haven't seen Joker, but I have heard good things. Like even the new The Batman, like DC's like individual stories have always been so good and they've struggled with that connective tissue. And so having something like this where it seems like we have a plan, like, don't know if I'm just being hopeful, but like, here we are. But like, again, this is the type of thing where like, there'd be like a presentation. I'm like, okay, I'm all in. Now do it. Like we've had those presentations like at work and stuff like that, where it's like, here's what we're going to be doing over the next several years. It's like, okay, I'm in. Let's do the thing.
Let's do it.
And so kind of just over here hoping that this then happens. So
Fingers crossed that
Yeah.
it's good.
yeah. Of those announcements, is there anything that specifically excites you?
Oh, Bat Family for sure.
Okay.
Obviously, we are not super DC knowledgeable, but I have actually read, I don't know, several-ish Batman comics, and I am a big fan of the Bat Family. Let's see some Damian Wayne angsty drama. So good.
Someone hire me. I can be a PA. I can be an AD. I can be an AC. Someone hire me. I know nothing about Blue Beetle, but the name Blue Beetle sounds cool. So I'm gonna pick that one out of the list because it has a cool name. I'm excited for Blue Beetle.
That's another one that I'm like, this seems ridiculous, but I'm in. Hopefully. Please be good.
Blue Beetle. Let's see. Oh, he's a cool character design. Yeah, I'm excited for Blue Beetle. I know nothing about it, but I'm interested.
Yeah. And I feel like that's like the different takes of like even with like phase 5 and 6 for like Marvel, of it's like you kind of get the end of like, oh, I'm really excited because we're going to have Daredevil back. But at the same time, it's like, oh, I have literally no clue like about the Thunderbolts, like some of those characters we've seen before on screen, but like I don't know what this is going to be about. And it's like you kind of get the like what's the mystery end of it, or like what's it actually going to be? And that gets me excited. But with that, listeners, let us know, what do you think about the DC universe? Have you had a chance to play Hi-Fi Rush? And what'd you think about Mighty Nein / DND stuff going on?
And exciting news.
Yeah.
All around.
Yeah, all over the place, which is pretty good. Like we got to hit a very wide range of topics. And so.
Good announcements, bad announcements, okay announcements.
Announcements?
Announcements?
Things were announced.
Poor financial moves.
Yeah. But with that, we'll be back next week with another episode of First Geek 411. And don't forget, our book club is going to be on February 23rd, looking at Children of the Nameless by Brandon Sanderson. And so, have y'all had a chance to start it yet?
No.
I opened it and read the first sentence and was like, I can't do this right now.
I believe in you, Shanine. If I could
recently discover a website page thing that will read things aloud to me. So I'm going to probably utilize that for this one.
Nice. I'll look it up. There, at one point in time, there was a podcast that was doing audiobooks for a lot of the magic stuff, like a lot of the magic stories. I don't remember if they got to Children of the Nameless, but I'll take a look. And if I find that, I'll post it in the book club chat. So
there were two kinds of darkness, and Hacienda feared the second far more than the first. I have now officially read the first sentence.
I'm proud of you. You've made it as far as Shanine.
Great. We're on the same page, Janine.
With that, you can find us as OneGeek411 on our social media. Join our Discord server. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Check out our Redbubble store. And you can watch live on Twitch and check out the videos over on our YouTube. And then, if you want to connect with us personally, you can do that on our personal social media. Mine is Humar Whittle.
Mine is I am not prepared with an I.
I'm the Hoot and Howl on Twitter and Hoot and Howl Tales, TALES, on Instagram.
And it's been a great week.
Drink some water.
Read a book.
I love you.